will find some interesting observations. Plymouth centered around covenanting with God and with one another. While they were not perfect by any means, over and over the pilgrims seemed to encounter divine providence at just the right times. Jamestown, on the other hand, centered primarily on the acquisition of gold and the building of capital. While there were some redemptive elements in the colony, the settlers seemed to encounter much fighting and bickering and failure.
Many people came to America. Many came seeking wealth. Many came seeking religious freedom. When studying the founding of the United States, one thing that you can't help but encounter is the faith of our forefathers. Time and time again, our forefathers recognized God's hand in the shaping of this nation. You will find him mentioned repeatedly in the words and documents. Amazingly, hardly any of this factual history is taught today, whereas it was common public school teaching material 75 years ago. It is important to note, though, that while our forefathers were great men who did great things, they were also just men, fallible and imperfect.
When we decided to embark upon creating this book, we decided to use King David from the Bible as our model. He was a man after God's own heart, but he was also a murderer and adulterer. And though David repented of his errors, they haunted him for the rest of his life. In the same way, our forefathers left some things undone, and along the way our nation plunged into some dark traditions. Ours is a heritage of light, and ours is a heritage of darkness.
This book is a collection of short stories about our heritage. Each short story could have, and has had, entire books written about its subject. Our collection of stories is by no means exhaustive. We have left out many great ones, but it is our hope that these accounts will ignite a passion and inspire you to learn more about the great heritage you have and to seek out the unfinished work left to do.
It is our hope that you enjoy reading these stories as much as we did discovering them. Toby and Michael. Chapter 1. Bulletproof. The French and Indian War. Account of a British officer. The American Indian chief looked scornfully at the soldiers on the field before him. How foolish it was to fight as they did, forming their perfect battle lines out in the open, standing shoulder to shoulder in their bright red uniforms. The British soldiers, trained for European warfare, did not break rank, even when braves fired at them from under the safe cover of the forest. The slaughter at the Monongahela River continued for 2 hours. By then, 1,000 of the 1,459 British soldiers were killed or wounded, while only 30 of the French and Indian warriors firing at them were injured. Not only were the soldiers foolish, but their officers were just as bad, riding on horseback, fully exposed above the men on the ground. They made perfect targets. One by one, the chief's marksmen shot the mounted officers until only one remained. "Quick! Let your aim be certain, and he dies," the chief commanded. The warriors, a mix of Ottawa, Huron, and Chippewa tribesmen, leveled their rifles at the last officer on horseback. Round after round was aimed at this one man. Twice the officer's horse was shot out from under him. Twice he grabbed a horse that had been left idle when a fellow officer had been shot down. 10, 12, 13 rounds were fired by the sharpshooters. Still, the officer remained unhurt. The native warriors stared at him in disbelief. Their rifles seldom missed their mark. The chief suddenly realized that a mighty power must be shielding this man. "Stop firing," he commanded. "This one is under the special protection of the Great Spirit." A brave standing nearby added, "I had 17 clear shots at him, and after all could not bring him to the ground. This man was not born to be killed by a bullet." As the firing slowed, the lieutenant colonel gathered the remaining troops and led the retreat to safety. That evening, as the last of the wounded were being cared for, the officer noticed an odd tear in his coat. It was a bullet hole. He rolled up his sleeve and looked at his arm directly under the hole. There was no mark on his skin. Amazed, he took off his coat and found 3 more holes where bullets had passed through his coat but stopped before they reached his body. 9 days after the battle, having heard a rumor of his own death, the young lieutenant colonel wrote his brother to confirm.